average from about 60 to 80,000 square foot, and acres 43,000 square foot. So I do about 8 to 9 acres a day, give or take.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Um,
enjoy it. I enjoy what I do.
that's what I was going to ask you. You enjoy that? Is that something you was born into, or did you find it? Did it find you, or how did that? That's a great question, John. Like, because here, folks, Jeff Robertson is live. I don't know whether y'all realize this as you're tuning in to your YouTube and your alerts are going off. Jeff Robertson is live again on a Wednesday at 2:45 with John Wildsmith. And we've been messaging back and forth. And just, dude, I'm telling you, I really appreciate you keeping this conversation going. And
Yes.
I guess we were talking just like we had been, wasn't I forgot I hit the live button. So, folks, um, and guess what? You're going to get John Wildside today for. I got a hard stop at 3:30. We're going to talk about some things, and we just kind of teed up one because I was like, "Oh, Grant's a really great question." But here's another thing: mark your calendars. It should already be out there next Wednesday. Back with Abe, same bat time, same bat channel. So Abe will be joining us again to talk about all the awesome Abe stuff. But today we're going to ride John Wildsmith a little bit about his journey and all the cool things with him.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate the introduction always.
yeah, I like it. We were just as fluid as it comes up, but we have to remind everybody how this has become a weekly conversation with you and I. And folks, here's all right. So here's for the sake of explaining it. Um, I'm going to put you on kind of the spot. 'Cause we don't rehearse this. We just come up and figure out what we're going to talk about. Um, you're coming out. One of the things that I work with as a business coach is I try to grab, like I told you before, some guys and girls that are in prison or they're doing very entrepreneurial, very they just need somebody like me to come along and be like, hey, let's say pay taxes, right? Don't sell drugs. You can't just help me kind of clean up their business model, but then repurpose all of that skill, dude, that they have. But I also run into folks John, they carry a. I'll give you an example. I've had guys walk in or schedule with me. They come on to Zoom. I've had guys walk into a meeting, sit down, and go, "Just so you know, I'm a convicted felon."
Yeah.
And I go, why would you tell me that? I mean, you ready to rob me? What's going on? I thought you was here for a business meeting. Why is this just not confessional? And they carry this guilt beyond all the things, and just the guy they're going to sit down and say, "Listen, let me tell you something. You made it in the right room because I'm gonna walk with you and I'm gonna show you what that looks like. But the one thing we're gonna stop doing today is telling people about your past, unless we have to cross that bridge. Sometimes we will, but for you to be an entrepreneur, people want they good to trust you. They want to rely on you, dependability, all these things, and that most of them don't give a crap about things you did years ago.
Yes.
So, what about your job search? Here comes John coming out of prison or coming out of your situation. What did that look like for you?
Man, so I was blessed in most situations. So since I've been out of prison, I've had 3 jobs, and I'll kind of walk through them pretty quick. The first one I got was actually doing fertilization and weed control, like I'm doing now. I was on the ankle monitor, so my relapse that we talked about was right after I got off the ankle monitor. So for that first 60 days, I was on the ankle monitor. I applied, I used Indeed, kind of stuff like that. And I got a job pretty quick. I had like 4 or 5 interviews within the 2 weeks, and I had to report to my parole officer. Wearing the ankle monitor, I had to tell a couple people. The first maybe one or two kind of snubbed their nose up, but nothing really rude, and I never had any like really bad reactions. And then I finally, I think maybe my fourth or fifth interview, got the job or went in for the in-person interview. They called me back, got the job. I was still on the monitor, so they worked with my hours. Like I was leaving my house at 6, there at 7, had to be off by 4, home by 5 type stuff.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So like very strict. And they were cool with that. So normally in training it's first 2 weeks, but I was still on the ankle monitor for about 6 weeks from my hire date. So I rode with the owner for that first like 6 weeks, which was kind of abnormal for them, but they were again very understanding. Like, so that's what I mean. A lot of people talk about how difficult it is to get a job as a felon, and to your point of those conversations, meeting people in business, absolutely, it's a turnoff, and that's a whole nother spinoff we can go on because I like that topic. Um, but as far as getting a job, so I got that job pretty quick. I was there for about 9 months. Um, and I ended up going back to the concrete industry that I was in, where I got fired from originally for doing drugs, and that was about a year after being out. I was there for about 2 years. Just man, the pay was real bad. They were very cool because they thought I stole something actually when I got fired. That's why they fired me. I didn't. It was just they knew I was on drugs pretty bad,
Yeah.
and so they kind of offered to drug test me or fire me, and I was like, I'm gone. And so that's when things got really bad in that instance. But so I was there for about a year, and then I was applying for my current job, Evergreen, and I knew a lot of history with Evergreen. I've done some work with them before. I went to prison kind of when I was getting in trouble and stuff, so I knew the company really well. Had a new owner, but I went in and applied, and man, he hired me pretty much on the spot. And it's interesting because when I went to my current job at the concrete company, they rebutted me. It was like, "Oh, hey, we'll pay you a little bit more if you'll stay," and which has never happened to me before. It was a good feeling, right? I was doing the right thing on the right path, and so I ended up staying. Told Evergreen, my current employer, I was offered more money, and I only ended up staying there for 2 weeks because it was just they offered me more money, but they took a bunch of stuff away, if that makes any sense. And so
Yeah.
I called Evergreen back and told him, and he hired me, and I've been there going on 4 years now.
The concrete pays good for most folks, but it's hard work. It's labor. I got some buddies that do that. It's labor. It's work.
Yeah, I was in the concrete testing industry, so I've
Okay.
yeah, I've cut concrete, I've poured concrete, and then I tested concrete, which is basically just like you're an inspector. Like you
Yeah.
have house inspectors, you have text dot inspectors, which for us is just your roadway and stuff like that. And so it's a lot of just sitting watching people pour concrete and writing numbers down. Got boring for me.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I can. All right, that changes things there. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that. I can see that running its course. It's um, dude. So, I mean, there's a lot of folks were, there's folks that was willing to work with you. There wasn't like this whole pushback and all these things. It was, and all right. So, all right, I'll share mine. I didn't. I was coming out of I'd only had to interview a handful of times, and they were all for public safety related jobs. And I don't know if I told you this part. Police work like you do. You did there. I could not bridge the communication skills that I had developed to make that sound like I could go out here and talk with someone in a sales role or something like. I couldn't. I didn't know how to bridge the gap in my skill set. So when I applied to this company one time, and I hadn't interviewed in years. I was undercut, long hair. I had cut my hair back a little bit, but it was kind of my identity, right? I was fighting that a little bit, so I was trimming back, just trying to get. And they asked me, "Can you walk us through a moment when, in like one of those crazy little interview questions they had, to where you had to make a difficult decision?"
Yeah.
And I was like, now be real with us, be real. And I go, y'all look at what I used to do. And they were like, and the lady's like, "Yeah, I just tell me," because it's this canned HR question. So I'm like, I hit the door, the guys are behind me, I step in this chair, and I'm on the shield, and I'm pistoled up, and I got this, this piece of furniture is hung around my foot, and I'm like, I'm trying to navigate that, and I'm driving through this search warrant on this house, and I said, and the door opens up, and the guy reveals himself who we're looking for, and I'm like, "Guys, stop!" And I kick this chair off of my foot, and I turn, And the guy shuts. I see his hands disappear, which is a big deal when in police officers, like, they want to see your hands. If you ever watch negative interactions, they just, because you stick your hands in your pocket, you pull out a knife, poke them in the eye. Right? It's just,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I said, in this case, we're in this guy's house in early morning. Drug dealers sometimes confuse cops with being robbed, so we're very deliberate in how we would do things. And I go, so I brush in on him, and I got him trapped. I hit the door with the shield, and the guy's like, when we hit the thing, I glanced right, and his wife and there's a little baby laying on the bed. And I said, shit got real for me really quick. And I said, I trapped the guy with the shield, and I looked behind me. There was a AK-47. He was reaching to arm himself, and I'm like, just grace of God, like I'm on top of him and all these things, dude. John Wildside, they said thank you for coming in. Walked me to the door because they were like, I was like, I don't tell me about a time when you had to to make some hard decisions. I'm like, I should have shot the guy. My buddy said, dude, you should have shot the guy when he moved his hands, because he was legitimately reaching for his gun. I said, unfortunately for old Jeff, I didn't shoot that dude because his wife and baby was laying in that room too. His intervention was, okay, it's the cops, my time is up. Fortunately, he put the gun down, or he didn't grab it at all. But the end results, John, could have been really bad. Me
Yeah.
trying to explain that in like, think about you going into the concrete company and explaining that as a day that you had to make some hard decisions. The
Yeah.
point being is, I didn't interview well at all. Like, I didn't know how. I didn't have the I'm glad you brought that up, because you got me thinking about, okay, so I went to a couple other interviews and scared to death. Like, I was like, they asked me that question, so I was trying to clean it up, and I'm thinking and I would go Google like the top interviewed questions, and I was coming up with stuff with them. Well, I'm coming off as just not genuine. Like, they know I'm fake. So yes, I had an employee one time that was, that had some back talk, didn't I? We had to sit down and have a counseling session about, they're like, you're full of shit. You don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to fix it, dude. And finally, I interviewed this dealership. This guy like starts chewing me out, big dude. He's like, and he knew me through another guy, and he was like, I know your background. You don't know me, but here's the deal. And that guy started. He like took a piece of paper, and he said, you have no self-worth right now, so you don't understand how good you are at stuff that you know how to solve. He says the problem in police work is the system steals away your self-worth, so you don't realize like what a value and all the knowledge that you have. He sat down with a notebook, man, and just started like, you know how to do this is how it applies at the dealership. You know how to do this is how it applies here. He said to go home and work on building these gaps, like, and he gave me this, and I don't know what I ended up doing with it, but dude, absolutely so thankful for him, because you would think Jeff the cop, right? Oh, I'm not a felon, all the things. No, I didn't know how to interview in public world.
Yeah.
Had no
Yeah.
clue.
Yep. That's interesting. So that kind of reminds me, my first modeling agency interview did not go well. And it goes back to what you were saying about not presenting being a convict, basically.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, but that's why I said a minute ago. That's so interesting. You said that, and like there's a line between coming into a room trying to pursue business of some sort and just coming out the gate with being either a felon or a meth addict. And I was more kind of talking about being a meth addict with her, but she asked me the question, why do you think you'd be good to work with us? And my immediate answer when anybody asks kind of like what not only what's my purpose, what am I doing, is I want to serve other people and show other people that you don't have to go down that that path. And I told her I was a recovering meth addict, and you could tell she just shut down. You know what I mean? She just
Yeah.
immediately shut down and kind of ended the conversation, and that was it. So it's interesting that you say that, because I agree. And the hard line for me with that is with coaching. My coaching is built around developing better habits from old habits, right? You know what I mean? Like it's a mindset thing. So there's definitely a challenge to know, because I had a guy tell me one time when I was talking to his family, I was a meth addict, and it shut them down as well real quick. And he kind of pulled me to the side, even. It was like, hey, maybe don't lead with that next time, blah blah blah. And I think I told you this in the first podcast we did.
No,
Well,
you did.
I went to church the following week, and my friend's parents told this story about how this guy, once he just got out of doing drugs and became a Christian, he was just loud about it. And so I took that as well. Okay, that's the approach that I'm going to take. But with what you're saying and just kind of the conversation, there's definitely a fine line to where you got to read the room, right?
Yeah.
So
You say like your friend, and to reverse that, your friend probably was telling you what advice I gave everybody else, like, John, we don't
yes,
care.
yes,
You don't have to tell people that. You don't feel obligated to come. It's not wrote on your face. No
yes,
one, you don't have to carry that guilt. That's probably what your friend ultimately, if you got deep with them, that's probably what they wanted to convey to you. Kind of like the directness I have with dudes and girls that share that with me, is I'm very direct and like, it ain't wrote on your freaking face. Don't ever come back in here with that attitude again. And versus your friend who's like, hey, oh yeah, let's don't lead with that next time. But I think that comes back to you because of that little bit of guilt that we carry. And
yeah,
and you feel like you feel like there's an I think sometimes when we go into rooms and folks comment in on this one, um, sometimes when we go into rooms, we feel like our shortcomings are wrote on our face, or someone's brief like, "Hey, I'm bringing my buddy Jeff, who, he's a cop who like to do, you have to, put some time." You feel like they brief their friends on who you are. Most then what I learned, they're like, "No, I didn't tell them. They get to decide whether they like you or not, dude. I ain't gonna tell them." Some people know you because they know you. They read the paper. They know about all the cool stuff you did. They know you had this incident or what have you. But um, I think, and that's what I would like for folks who have struggled and fell short and done dumb stuff. I think when you get into the employer stuff, is like you said, you're accused of stealing. Well, go back, fix that. Like, hey, I didn't steal. Just here's how it went down. Employers are always looking for good people, and they have their own things. Like you talk about the owner letting you ride with him for a while. Owners
yeah,
probably just wanted to monitor you for the greater good of making sure that you were holding into the promises you told him on how you were going to stay clean,
yeah.
and the
That I did
promises
get a
that you
lot of.
told him. Yeah,
That I
yeah,
did like that side. Every job, the three jobs that I've had since then, for sure, like that, I was definitely monitored, as definitely the best word, very well. You know what I mean? Like I had a I had a reputation to, this is not a reputation to live up to. I had a reputation to rebuild, I guess. You know what I mean? I had to re relearn just being a normal citizen, and also showing that I had good character and good morals at the end of the day. So yeah, that was
yeah.
the tough part, for sure, for sure.
I think when you look at the lady from the modeling agency, the point I would like for us to make on that is that could come from a lot of different areas, but we don't know how drugs affected her life. She could be dealing with that. She could have had her brother. Like I have some like I ain't far from it. My friends are. I've had friends in the game and all the different things. I've had friends that struggle with addiction over the years, and so I understand. So the impact that drugs has had on families, the reaction to you could have been because she felt it from somewhere else.
100%. I was just talking to Megan about that earlier, like, and because that's what we wanted to possibly, have some conversation with her too. And it's crazy that it kind of overwhelmed me today thinking about it, because yeah, I have a crazy story and some cool stuff and some bad stuff or whatever, and addiction affected me, right? But people don't realize, to your point of who in her life might have been a drug addict or had some addiction problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, addiction affected me to the extreme, to the max. I was an IV meth user. I injected them on, but you don't understand how much addiction affects not just my wife, not the one person, the whole family members. So, what's the percentage of drug addicts in the world? I have no idea. But take that percentage and triple it for how many people have been affected by addiction. You know what I mean? So, no, that's a valid point. When you encounter people and you talk addiction or incarceration, you don't know how it's affected them if it isn't direct. So, man,
So as of 20, I got the internet.
I knew you
John.
got to do it. Yeah.
I have access to the internet here.
Yeah. What
As
percentage of drug
as
addicts?
it's a great question, man. It's a great stat to have. As of 2024, approximately 64 million people worldwide are estimated to have a drug use disorder, which is equivalent to less than 1% of the world's population.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
But here, hey, let me tell you, oh, but don't steal from it, folks. Like, oh,
yeah,
I said, it's not, man. Your drug problem in your area is amplified like 1,000-fold, I would think. Like
yeah,
one, like that 1% in my world, it's such a because it impacts communities so hard.
yes, 100%. And again, take that number and multiply it by 3 and 4 because that's the family members, not just the spouse,
Yeah.
not just the child. You have mom and dad. That's 4 or 5 people right there just affected from that. So no, it's a huge. I don't know. It's interesting. I follow this guy on TikTok and Instagram, and he said there's a statistic saying that only 2% of meth addicts recover for life. And so I've done some research on that statistic, and it's less than 5%. So I don't know if two is the exact number, but it does say there's less than 5% because it's like 10, less than, I don't know, making this number up, 20 or 30% stay sober past 5 years. And then obviously that number drops down from 10 years, 20 years to life. So it's crazy because he reps that really hard. Only 2% of people recover from methamphetamines, which is it's a pretty accurate number.
Explain that. Explain that to the Amish. Like if you were talking to your Amish friend, and what I mean by that is, I was going to use my grandmother as an example, but my grandmother's probably was exposed to drugs at some point in time just because of upbringing. Right? This, but I'm
Yeah,
going to, so I had to go into another community, just through, like we said, through family members or whatever. But like,
yeah.
what and what? Why is that? What does methamphetamine do that you're like? I'd rather give everything up over here and take a risk of going to prison and losing it all. What does that? What does that do for you?
Man, that's a question. I have that same question about fentanyl to people who use fentanyl. I have the same question.
Yeah.
I've done heroin as an addict. It never really clicked for me. But meth at first, man. So when I first started doing any amphetamines, uppers, cocaine, like it was, we got into drinking a lot, and then you snort some cocaine, you keep drinking, and that's where kind of the habit was developed. Cocaine wasn't enough, then you started doing methamphetamines, and so it's just a wide awake, makes you feel. I don't. Uh, at some point, like you're kind of indestructible, but that's brief. It's not like I can take on the world. You just are going 1,000 miles an hour. So the thoughts of slowing down to prevent bad things from happening don't cross your mind. So it's not an
Yeah.
indestructible feeling. It's just you are wired so fast that you don't think about any of the bad shit that's about to happen until it happens. I say I didn't develop any physical tics from doing drugs, but I developed a very bad form of ADHD. Not diagnosed. I'm using that as kind of like I can't slow down is my point. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm 1,000 miles an hour all the time, and that's just from 10, 12, 13 years of a meth addiction of just going 100 miles an hour without checking the consequences before my actions. And that's something that I struggle with on a daily basis is trying to slow that down.
I so a couple things to help folks. You can look this up. The Germans was some of your earlier adopters and maybe helped perfected meth.
Yes.
It was something they gave to their soldiers, and
Yep. Big
they
time.
were they were Hitler, I think, was pretty badly addicted to methamphetamine by the end of his time. John Kennedy, I think. When you go back into that time, I think there's some documented evidence of him using methamphetamine. So it's like it's to speak. I've heard it described exactly the way you described it. My crack cocaine is like, that was very prominent when I was on the job, and meth. Crack cocaine users would tell you that they were always in search of that first high. Like the first time I ever smoked crack cocaine, they're like, they got. They would say, they never has been in high as intense as their first crack cocaine high. I used to have witnesses that would tell me that on the rail. Like that was a very common inside of that. Like, why do you keep going back? Why do you keep going? Like, man, it's just trying to get back to where I was.
And that's the chase, you know what I mean? That's the chase, and you don't ever reach it in any form. I don't think I was ever like, oh, I want to get high like I did the first day type feeling, but it was just, yeah, like you're just trying to get to a point to where you feel like, okay, that was enough. I can go about my day. And you never feel like that. You're never like, okay, that was enough drugs. Let me go. You know what I mean? And when you're smoking it's just kind of an analogy, probably pretty descriptive. Like when you're smoking dope with friends, like you see in movies where people are smoking weed and they're passing it around. Well, meth is like that when you're smoking meth. You just pat, whatever. And it's like, okay, you wanted another hit? Oh no, I'm about to go. Yeah, let me take one more hit. All right, you ready? No, I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like it's just back and forth,
Yeah.
and it's you never get enough of it. It's just you're constantly chasing the dragon, as they say. And man, the deeper we go into that, like just the thankful I am that I don't have that vicious cycle because that's what it is. It's a cycle. It's just constant. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, whew, it's brutal.
You felt like, and I get you on the thing. So 911 dispatcher to the deputy task force work, like, and I didn't have family commitments and kids and things, so it's just me. So a lot of my, I've spoke to this before on identity was being who I was, but like my purpose. And so I didn't have to go to watch kids play ball. I had to go like. I could be on the job all the time. So what you said about just going and have I was a 911 dispatcher. I was that I multitasked so much in that job for so long, and then just busy and the reactive. That's where I learned through my podcast about being stuck in survival mode.
Yeah.
That's why I ask sometimes, like you, like, "Hey, where did this come from?" Or whatever. Um, a lot of mine was just the stuff that I dealt with in lower early things, but it was a compounding effect of survival mode. So for me, like what you were saying earlier, is now part of my daily routine is I do some business coaching in the morning, run pretty hard for the first part of the day, get the kids where they're supposed to be, do all those things. I hit the gym from 1 till 2. And then starting here is if you and I hadn't have caught up today, I would have found some time for just downtime and reflection. And
Yeah.
John, it absolutely drives me nuts. My mind will not shut off, but I'll go out back and I got a good little area where I like to sit, and I'll just I'll set an alarm because I got to pick my daughters first. I got to go back to I'll run the kids in the afternoon to get them to their athletic stuff, and so I'll take some time to go back there with an alarm set and just do some breath work. And my brain's like, "What are you doing? Where are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you going here? What you doing now? What's going?" So just trying to find that and it's on my reflections, anything I journal, and I talk to experts, talk to you, talk to you. Everybody's like, "Oh, Jeff, you need to find time just for you and to settle down and work on some breath stuff." So I tell you that, hoping you might take a page out of that book with me as well,
Yeah.
and just my wife had taught me how to be good alone. My wife's like she's really good at alone. Like I'm a people. Like I always feel like I need to be around people, and because it gives me part of my purpose, I guess. But she's taught me how, like, hey, just being alone and still and quiet, and those are uncomfortable times for me still. So I'll tell you that hopefully, and it'll help you kind of pick up maybe some of my routine
Yes.
because I struggle with the same shit.
Yep.
Just
No,
fine.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm always looking to add to the routine. You sharpen the tools in the toolbox. That's
So
all.
the cool part is, from a tactical perspective, you want to go to the other side, is when you get into the when you get into like tactics, if you just look up box breathing is born out of stressful situations.
Okay.
You'll see it with your friends over in the Navy SEAL world. You'll see it with your tier ones, SWAT. And then I teach it in athletics as well because I was taught it my whole career. And then when you get into working in just better connections with yourself and spirituality and things like that, it follows you there. So it's just a 4 second inhale, hold that breath for 4 seconds, release for 4 seconds, and then hold at the bottom for 4 seconds.
Okay.
And if you can, for me, frequency music has been something that's kind of my friend. Like I'll turn on just whatever frequency music, and just to give me tones in my ear. Because what it does, because if I'm looking at the tree or I hear something, it was like, "Was that a squirrel? I wonder what that squirrel looked like. I'm going, was it a gray squirrel? Was it a red squirrel?" So my brain's like, "Hey, let's see what that's." So the frequency music occupies my mind, so I can really concentrate on the breath work side of it. Oh,
Yeah.
give them a shot sometimes, dude. I
Yeah,
love to
no,
hear your feedback on.
for sure. I absolutely will. Cause yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that. And I'm pretty, you're right. I struggle with any alone time throughout the day. I'm alone at my job all day, but I'm racing, going. But that's why I like my morning process so much because even today, the gym I go to is down the street, but the one I just the new gym membership I just got is about 30-minute drive. So I'm used to going 5 minutes or 30 minutes. Big difference in the morning, but I get up so early. I get up at 3. I don't leave my house till 4:30. That hour and a half when no one else is awake, it's just me. I haven't done the breath work, so that's what I'm saying. Like I have the time to implement it, and man, I'm gonna start tomorrow because we were talking about
The
intervals in a sermon recently, and that was one thing talking about that quiet time.
Dude, all right, so I wasn't getting up quite as early as you, but I found the same thing earlier. Like when I started kind of getting my fitness together, I was already to do like life was kind of turning some big corners for me. Getting up early added that extra superpower. Like I just felt like I bought time. I don't do it as much now. Like I'll get up for one, like sometimes I wake up at 4 o'clock and I just can't go back to sleep. So I'll start doing some reflection time or what have you, or I might get 2 hours of work done before the house wakes up. I would that's another one. And I think what it did for me is it helped disrupt because that normalcy sometimes is exactly what it is. Isn't it? So just moving your clock back disrupts your routine to where your brain, you gotta figure out new stuff. That was
Yeah,
super helpful to me too to get up.
that's one of the
The other
challenges.
piece,
Oh, go ahead. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
No, please, please, please.
No. No, you tell me your takeaway on that. I got another little hack I'll give you.
So that's one of my kind of non-negotiables and challenges for people when they start on my program is getting up an hour earlier because
Yeah, that's a good one.
that just gives, you know what I mean, like that just, you've seen on my Instagram the salt water and lemon. I think I posted that one today. It's just doing salt water and lemon, but those two things are pretty much the morning non-negotiables because those are game changers. They will change the saltwater and lemon will change the trajectory of your metabolism over a period of time, but getting up early will change the trajectory of your day every single day. You know what I mean? Like it really gives you the time to focus on you. I used to still kind of do wake up with just this negative mindset mentality from either the day before or I'm not ready for the world. And if I don't wake up and get myself right, the world will kick me in the teeth all day. All day. If I get up and fumble like and don't comb your hair, I don't have hair, but you know what I mean? Like that you just look like you rolled out of bed look. If I do that, I fumble all day. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if I start by spilling coffee on myself on the way to work or just can't put one foot in front of the other. So that time, that hour and a half before the world wakes up or I face the world is probably the most important time of my day because I have found it just it aligns my day. It helps me get my wife and I on the same page. My daughter, it makes you subconsciously aware of those things. Because again, if not, and you're spilling coffee on yourself on the way to work, whatever that might look like, it's going to put you in a bad mood, bad state of mind, bad negative mindset, and that just carries on all day. But if you're intentional with your mindset, again, wake up negative, but intentionally think good shit, that good shit's going to happen all day,
Yeah,
or at least puts you in a mindset to be able to take the bad stuff in a positive way, which is very difficult.
yeah. It gives you it makes you do some of the things that we're just talking about. Because you got an
Yeah,
hour, you up early, the house is quiet, you're tiptoeing around, you don't want you're trying not to be a disruptor. And when you finally find your way to your chair or whatever you're going to work on, it's journaling, whatever. It's like it just gives you some time in your thoughts. And I used to think it was back in the day, dude. That was not. I didn't like being the quiet and in my thoughts because that's when my brain really turned on about me. And I got better as time went on about really just. So that's what I was going to tell you about. Did I tell you about Ho'oponopono?
uh-uh.
If I told you about that one. So you ever hear the term, "Hey man, you just need to forgive yourself."
Yes.
It's just like, yep. Hey, yeah, John, all the stuff you've dealt with in your life, you know what? You just need to forgive yourself. And I was like, it was easy for me to say. In fact, I felt like I had done that multiple times. And I had my she's now friend like you, me and her catch up. Jody Peterman was on my show, and I was telling. She goes, "Oh yeah, you need to do a Ho'oponopono prayer." And I was like, and so she explained it to me. And basically, builds off of the breath work I gave you, but it's an
Okay.
old Hawaiian prayer. It's Ho'oponopono, Ho'opopp. It goes on and on. If you look on my YouTube channel, folks, I recorded an episode, but I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you how I got there. So it's a you start to pray. Do a couple rounds of breath work, and then you do. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. That's the four elements of the prayer is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And Jody was teaching me this, and I was like, man, this is like he was speaking to me. I'm like, wait a minute, this right here is, And she goes, oh yeah. So I Google and I always go to Apple Podcasts. Like I run to Apple Podcasts and just kind of put in the term to see if there's anybody's recording thing. And I found this like relationship advice dude. Gosh dang, I can't think his name now. But I saw him. He had recorded it, so I go and I open up. I listen to his episode, and this is where's the superpower that I was lacking is he went through about how we all kind of fall short. And sometimes you're still carrying guilt from things happened when you was 4 years old, or when you may have had you did something dumb on the playground. It's still like my son will tell you, he touched the soccer ball by hands, like they kicked the ball and he caught it. He wasn't the goalie, and they called a whistle, and today he's like, that's the worst moment of my life. And we just laugh like that's not the worst moment of your life, but we'll give you that one. And so like you think about it, like those worst moments. So I was listening to him, and so I started going back. And when I would wake up, because me, I'll suddenly wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'm up, and I would lay there and I'd do my breath work. I'd start on breath work, and I would start repeating that prayer. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Couple days go by, and this is on my mind. I'm texting John, I'm like, hey man, this is some good stuff here. And my mom had gave me this old picture album, and I was like, I need to go. I need something's kind of telling me, like nudging me, like go look at those freaking those pictures. So I went and I was looking at the pictures, and I was flipping, and I found this picture of me, 4 years old. You'll see it sometimes in my reels. It'll pop up
Yeah,
that
yeah,
face
yeah,
of
yeah.
me or so.
Yeah.
I had I had an AI create a welcome to the Jeff Robertson Show with that little guy talking.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I, yeah. And I've got another one, John. I'll show you how to do this sometimes. It's fun as crap. Now it'll go, have a good day, suckers. And I'll send it to my kids, little 4-year-old Jeff. Have a good day, suckers.
Awesome.
So I made eye contact with 4-year-old Jeff Robertson, man, and I was like right there. And I picked it up, dude, and I was like, I've been looking for you. And I set it down there and I said, welcome back. I'm like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And then 4-year-old Jeff probably he was dealing with crap. He was dealing with adult problems at 4 years old that he didn't have to deal with. And man, you want to talk about turning a corner when you say the words forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Is if when you hit that moment of where you are that regret or that what have you, if you'll just reach in and just pause and go back to that person and just remind them, like with that, I've done this in a couple things. I don't know if I was sharing it with I had another detective on the other day, and we were talking about he had childhood death. I had one early in our careers as police officers, and I remember like that one's kind of just stuck with me just because of the way everything went down. And I went back and sat down beside myself, and I had that scene and me pulling up and all the chaos that was going on. And I kind of walked alongside of me as he was going up to the scene and found the little girl who ultimately had died. And I was like, hey man, you don't know what you know now, and you're going to work the scene exactly how it needs to be worked based on the circumstances right now, and that's all I need you to do is don't worry about the outcome has already been predetermined. You're just here to do your part, and don't and whatever's going to happen, I forgive you. And you didn't know, man, dude. Game changer, John. And I hope me explaining that to you and folks that are listening is when you have that moment to where you feel like you're like you walk in that room with a former meth addict or felon, all the
Yeah,
stuff wrote on
yeah,
your face that you can lean in, pause for a second, go back, do a quick little 4 second in, 4 second out, go back to that moment and just use that, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Absolutely is a game changer for me. And I hope it is for you as well, dude.
I love it, and I appreciate that because I had a conversation probably 6 months after I was out of prison, and we were out at a dinner, a buddy's birthday, and I was talking to a guy that we just met, and I kind of introduced, or I didn't introduce myself, but we're talking. I also I said something about being a convict, and so that, and his wife looked over at me and was like, "You don't need to identify like that anymore." And so to your point, I mean it's our identification that we need to forgive ourselves for, that we need to detach from at some point, and that understand those things aren't our identification necessarily. That's what we did. It's not who we are.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And but it's like it's
It is hard.
same thing when I was telling someone about the about, hey, you just need to forgive yourself. And what I realize, I'm an actionable guy. Like if you come work with me in business, you leave my business consult with me. Like here's 3 actionable items that we're going to take. If I'm teaching your workshop or leadership, like at the end of our each block, someone like, hey, write this down. I need you to do these 3 things. Tell me. So I like to create these actionable moments where you can put into the teaching that I'm teaching you, that you can deploy it immediately, right? And I realized what a crappy job I was doing um, by just saying, "Oh, yeah, just you just need to forgive yourself." And like it's harder, it's easier freaking said than done, Jeff.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What when you are coming out? I wanted to cap it off with this when
Yeah,
because we've got about just a few minutes left.
sure.
How can you folks that are like trying to transition? You were made this amazing success story. And I think what I was telling someone the other day, like Bridges, is military guys when they're coming out, sometimes they don't. Or Abe was telling us this dude about like how he just struggled, things. So military, and I told him like all of us, whether it's prison, military, it's all it's all that coming out of the club, motorcycle gang, whatever, right? It's all guys trying to re-enter back into life. And do you got any advice
Yeah,
for
that's
that? For that, yeah, go ahead.
100%, and that's what my program is based around, is a community of individuals that need not only the accountability but that mindset shift from whatever it was, whether it was isolation from being incarcerated or from just getting out of the military, where you're used to having that group of men around you that support you, or like you said, even motorcycle gangs, getting out of anything to where you have accountability, whether it's positive or negative, right? But just that backup, because that's what it is. It's just support. I think we kind of had a similar conversation. What would be the number one thing I would give advice for getting out of prison? It would be find a mentor. So that's what my program is based around. That's why I still to this day have a coach, and I lean on him on a regular basis to guide me, whether it's in business, whether it's in my day to day, whether it's in my fitness. So find a community of men that are doing the things that you want to do, and join that. And I mean that's been the game changer for me, because isolation will kill you. Being a recluse will just drive you the wrong direction.
Nah, dude, that's a solid advice, man.
It's
That
hard to
is
do.
some of the things. Yeah, it's freaking hard. You're trying to figure it all out. You're trying to figure it all out. You are so many people try to go in alone.
Yeah,
And here's what I can tell you right now. I take advice from Jeff and John before I would professionals. Unfortunately, just so y'all know, I'm on a profession. Like I enjoy what I do in the roles, but like I'm gonna lean in and find a Jeff or and John, or I'm gonna find a John because John has been where I'm at, and he's gonna give me the raw, the real, and there's a little bit of when you sometimes it's it's harder sometimes. I'm not mad at folks that want to help that haven't went through hard times. Well, thank you for everything that you do. I'm trying to create a bridge between relatability and the other side of it. But it's hard for me to tell somebody how to kick heroin if I've never kicked heroin.
Yeah.
You have. Um, this is what you're getting ready to experience. For me, mentoring business, or me, a police officer wants to leave a job or have abruptly has to exit because of something negative. I know what that's going to look like. I know what we need to do to get you a new identity, get you a new outlook on life, and get you headed in the right direction. I understand that because I've been through it. I've been through a lot of other things that we coach and we teach. Just some folks ain't. They're teaching because from their education, and that's okay. I ain't mad at you. Glad you exist.
Yes. A lot of it's lessons learned. A lot of it's lessons learned.
Yeah. I posted your Wild Style Fit. Folks, make sure there's a couple things I want to close with. I want to make sure you're following John, share
Right.
his information, and get the good word about him and what he's doing because um, there's a lot of folks that just needs to navigate through his program. Even it ain't gonna be forever. It's just somebody that can help give them a boost if it has to be to get them going, and that's up to him. The other thing, and this is where we can, if you got to interview John's wife, and you were going to sit down with her, and you wanted to ask questions,
Yeah.
and you got to ask some questions about her take and her life, and because I'm laying all the foundations for Megan, who's
Yeah.
like, this guy's absolutely crazy.
Ah,
But I'm laying the foundations with John. But I think the more, because I know what I'd like to know. I know my wife. My wife's like, well, this would be a great question to ask. And so I go to my well of friends. Like, here's a guy. We're gonna wrap with this. I'll tell you this real quick. My
yeah.
friend, I've had some guys on here that were, they're in cults. One of my first guests, Manti Barlow, FLDS cult out in Utah. Grandfather was a founding member, like really great dude. Um, Appreciate you being on with me that time, Manti. But I asked my friends, I'm like, hey, got Manti coming on. What would you ask a guy who's been in the cult? This is my dumb friends. Love you guys. Why'd you stay in the cult? And I was like, dude, they didn't know they was in a cult. So
Yeah.
I can answer that one for you. Give me something better. So thank So, folks, Megan is going to be a special episode for us coming up soon. We'll get that on the schedule so you know when that's coming. But for the folks that's listening, you have an interest in John and I's conversation. First off, thank you. But I'd love to bring in more people that wants to be part of that conversation because I think it is probably one of the most powerful conversations that I would like to have.
Yes.
Because she has a whole nother version of the John Wildsmith tale.
Yes. The
So,
side that hasn't been told.
yes.
Yeah.
And she has her own, and I realized that with my wife, is she's walked with me through her eyes, and she has her own eyes, and the stories that she sets on that the ones that we share a joke about, and the ones that she's like, I could kill him.
I got a
So
bunch
I
of those.
understand. Yeah. Dude, thank you. Appreciate you being back with me again, man. Folks, share this episode. Let the world know that John exists, and I will be in touch with you. But I'll definitely, folks, mark your calendars. And John and I and Abe will be back on next Wednesday at 2:45 live, talking about some more of their film stuff. So can't wait to see you then, brother.
Yep. Excited.